One of the most useful concepts I've ever come across in the world of stress management, emotional self-regulation, energy management, and resilience is the concept of power-ups, and then the practices based on that concept. And I heard about this after listening to a TED Talk by Dr. Jane McGonigal, who's a rock star in the video game field. And based on her TED Talk, I ended up buying her book, Super Better, which has turned out to be one of my all-time favorite books. And the story behind Power Ups, I think, is really interesting and bears telling. So, a bunch of years ago, she got a really bad concussion. It happened, strangely enough, by hitting her head on the corner of a kitchen cabinet door. And it was such a bad concussion. She had to be in a dark room, no phone, no screens, etc., for weeks on end. And she ended up getting a really severe concussion-induced depression. And as this dragged on, she really became more and more concerned and more determined to break out of this. And so what she did was apply the psychology that she knew from her work in the video game world that made video games so appealing and actually addictive, and also worked with her twin sister, Kelly McGonigal, who's famous in the positive psychology field. They worked together to create a game which Jane named Jane the Concussion Slayer, which I just think is awesome. And again, it used video game principles. And one of the principles is the concept of power-ups. So if you've never played a video game, a power-up is anything that, surprise, surprise, makes your character more powerful. So in Angry Birds, it's seeds, Super Mario, mushrooms. If we get really retro, Pac-Man, the glowing ball. And so in the real world, power-ups are any activity that boosts your mood, boosts your energy level, etc. So it could be watching an inspiring video or a funny uh, donkey video. It's having a fun conversation with a friend, or reading an inspiring story, going for a walk in the forest, playing with your dogs, etc., etc. So anything that boosts your mood, boosts your energy level. And she also divides them into different categories, which I typically don't use. I think they're four: intellectual, social, physical, and maybe emotional. But the takeaway is to be intentional with using power-ups to shift your emotional slash physiological state throughout the day. Let me give you a quick example. So if I'm doing a talk on resilience, this is kind of my go-to example because it so stands out for me, and it's just a relatable example. So um, I had either an article that I wanted to write or a program that I needed to develop, but I was feeling zero creative mojo. And I typically start the day with some sort of exercise. And this is back in the day where my go-to was high intensity interval training, so a HIIT protocol. So really, gets the old heart pumping, et cetera. And so I'm doing my HIIT protocol, and I'd had a cup of coffee. And as I'm doing my workout, I'm thinking about, I'll just say it's an article, the article that I need to write, but neither the physiological shift from the caffeine or the HIIT protocol were doing anything. I was still feeling flat. So I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to need to add another power up. So I think I had another cup of coffee, still nothing. So I'm like, okay, let's add some uh, intense workout music. So I put on some intense instrumental music, still just not feeling it. I'm like, what else do I need to stack on top of these power-ups? So I think I know learning new things that I find fascinating really gets me jazzed up. So let's try that. So I switch off the music and instead start watching some video about some topic I'm really into. And it was so wild because like within just a couple of minutes, I found myself feeling really energized by the fascinating stuff the person is saying. So I instantly stopped my workout, stopped watching the video, went to my desktop and started writing away. So that's an example of using a power up. Another example of using power ups. Let's say you're doing some real grinding it out work on your computer, or maybe it's like really, furrowed brow, number crunching or analytical work. And you can feel your brain starting to lose focus, lose enthusiasm, etc. Great time to do some power ups, like go, especially physical ones. Go for a quick walk, do some jumping jacks, push ups, burpees, whatever, to shift your state. Also, those kind of power ups are also a great example of what Dr. James Lair and Tony Schwartz found in their work that they titled Corporate Athlete. Um, Working with a corporate athlete, where they used athletic training principles to help CEOs and other C-suite executives restore their energy level and also their mojo. And a big part of that was using the natural human cycle in physical fitness of when you challenge yourself, then you have to do recovery time. You don't lift weights every day, for instance, or do a super hard workout, the same super hard workout every day. You have to have recovery days. So anyway, that's another way to use power ups. The other reason why I got so pumped when I read about power ups and Super Better is Jay McGonigal, introduced me to the research of Dr. Stephen Porges, who created polyvagal theory, which is a real game changer in terms of understanding the importance of psychological safety when you're having conversations with people, and understanding the importance of knowing how to shift your nervous system into a more productive, empowered state. And so anyway, the part that really got me pumped up about power ups was when she referenced Stephen Porges's research on the vagus nerve, which is really ground zero for the mind body connection. Is how what they found was that the strength of what they call vagal tone. So vagal tone strength is basically how effective your vagus nerve is. And the vagus nerve, again, plays a dominant, if not the major role in how our thoughts affect our emotions affect our thoughts, how our emotions affect our body, how what our body is doing affects our emotions, et cetera, et cetera. So the whole mind-body connection. And what they found was the strongest predictor of your ability to just kind of like let it go when you have some sort of negative interaction with somebody during the day, or some hassle or frustration, the ability for it to be like that saying, water off a duck's back, is directly related to how strong your vagal tone is. And what they found was, so here's where it gets really interesting, is they can like guesstimate how strong your vagal tone is simply by the ratio of positive emotions to negative emotions you have throughout the day. They found that when people would catalog positive to negative emotions, they keep track of it and then report how many of each. it was basically as good as this fancy piece of equipment that measures heart rate variability, which is a good indicator of vagal tone. So the ratio of positive to negative emotions you have throughout the day is a strong, very accurate indicator of your how strong your vagal tone is. Okay, great. So what does that mean? What it means is the more intentional we are at engaging in power-ups, so doing those simple practices throughout the day, throughout the week, throughout the month, throughout our lives, that boost our mood, our energy level, the more we do that, not only is it in the moment giving us more energy and improving our mood, but also over time, it's strengthening our vagal tone. So it's strengthening our resilience. So that's that's why I'm such like a fanboy of the concept of vagal tone, but also of power ups. And also one other quick little fun fact about power ups and vagal tone and resilience is what they also found was that with how emotions affect vagal tone, that it was these little micro bursts of positive emotion that strengthened vagal tone. It wasn't orchestrating or waiting for some big, wonderful event like some like super cool vacation that strengthens vagal tone. Like those are great, nothing wrong with a super cool vacation, but it's the incremental daily doses of positivity that strengthen vagal tone. And the other thing that was fascinating about the research is people with strong vagal tone, i.e., they're more impervious to the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune that happen throughout everyday life, that the people with strong vagal tone didn't have any fewer negative emotions than people who have weak vagal tone. They had just as many negative emotions throughout the day. They just had like a whole lot more positive emotions. So the balance was more positive to negative. So why that I think that is such good news is it doesn't mean if you have negative emotions and negative reactivity throughout the day, like, uh-oh, I'm in trouble now. It's a lost cause. Like, no, that's just another reason why you want to be consciously intentional about stacking positive emotional states, i.e., engaging in power ups throughout the day to weigh it in favor of more positive emotions versus negative. So that's power ups. And of all the many guiding principles, practices, fascinating scientific research that I've studied and practiced throughout the years, again, related to stress management, emotional self-regulation, and resilience. Power-ups are like in the top five because once you understand them, they're so common sense and easy to understand and also easy to execute on. It's just like figure out what works for you. Ask other people, like, what are things that you do to shift your state, to boost your mood? And then just experiment as you go through life to add to your list of power ups that you can deploy whenever necessary.